Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
This is Triple Play, that podcast where we joyously run through a graveyard, because this month we watched the Dollars Trilogy / the Man with No Name Trilogy, depending on how you heard of it and where you heard of it.
Written by Victor Andres Catena, Jamie Comas Gill, Fernando De Leo, Sergio Leone, Duccio Tessari, Torino Valeri, Robert Lowell, Clint Eastwood, Adriano Bolzoni, Luciano Vincenzoni, Sergio Donati, Fulvio Morsella, Enzo Dell'Aquila, Age and Scarpelli, and Mickey Knox.
They're all directed by Sergio Leone, produced by Arrigo Colombo, Giorgio Papi, and Alberto Grimaldi.
And released in 1964, 1965, and 1966.
Unless you're in the US, then you didn't get them till 1967.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is what's typically known as the Dollars Trilogy. A Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
Or in Italian, The Good, the Ugly, and the Bad.
Yeah, it wasn't intended to be a trilogy, but it was marketed that way because United Artists needed a strong angle to market these films when they finally came to the US. And now everybody just accepts it as a trilogy.
Yeah, and they all follow the same main character. Although you could just watch them independently.
Yeah.
Or you could just watch them all and say that they weren't the same main character.
Or you could watch them all in one sitting like we did and fall asleep during The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
You fell asleep during that?
No, but I felt like I was going to.
I almost did. Anyway.
Right.
So these are Italian movies, if you hadn't already known or guessed. They're spaghetti westerns, which, if you didn't know, is just a term for an Italian-made western.
Yeah, that's why it's spaghetti's from Italy.
Yeah.
Spaghetti western.
Yep. Also called Italian westerns, but
That's not as fun.
Yeah, it's not as fun.
So, we should start with how many times we've seen these, because I've seen these a grand total of nothing. Never.
No. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen the first two at all. I'd watched like a fourth of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly before, but now I watched the whole thing. And most of the good most of the better scenes were at the end. So, there you go. But yeah, the first two were completely new to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we'll talk about how the first one was conceived. So that would be a Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah, these are actually fairly interesting production-wise.
Yeah, surprisingly. We've gone a couple months of some pretty not that interesting movies, because we did Spider-Man, then X-Men, then
Bourne.
Jason Bourne, so...
We didn't get to talk about the fifth Jason Bourne movie. You know, the one where he goes to Mars and it's a musical.
That's what happened in that movie, yeah.
Best comedy.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. Why was it...
Did you see the film?
No, I mean, I
So, how do you not get it, then?
I didn't get how it was a comedy.
Yeah, you kind of had to have seen the film. It's a lot of situational comedy.
Well, I read the book.
Yeah.
I read your copy of the book.
My copy of the book that got destroyed. No, the movie's more
Wait,
of a...
what?
Yeah, no.
All right, okay.
I lent it to someone else and it got destroyed.
And they destroyed
yeah.
it. They burned it.
They spilled coffee on it. They turned the movie into more of a situational comedy than...
Was there a
the
laugh
book.
track?
No. Look, I guess 2015 wasn't a good year for comedies. They didn't have, like, Deadpool and Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Heard of that. Anyway, we're getting a bit off topic here.
Just a bit. Just a bit.
Just a couple planets and away and in a different century. Yeah, so production of these movies. They're directed by Sergio Leone, who's been called the greatest director of all time.
Well, a lot of people have been called the greatest director of all time, including but not limited to Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams. So, and Pretty sure someone's called M. Night Shyamalan the best director of all time, too, at one point. Maybe back when he directed his first movie, which is apparently good. Yeah, no, Sergio Leone wanted to make a Western because the American...
He liked Westerns.
He liked Westerns, and the American Western market was dying out. They weren't making a lot of American Westerns anymore, but he realized that in Italy there was still a big market for Westerns, so he wanted to capitalize on that and make the big bucks by making by making a Western.
Yeah, and he always liked history and stuff. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to do something different with his Western than what Americans were doing, I guess, or what they had been doing in the past decades, which is more of a pristine version of the West.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to bring, I guess, Italian filmmaking styles to Westerns because it hadn't really been done. There were a couple before him that were sort of big, but the spaghetti Western genre didn't really become big until A Fistful of Dollars got released, and everyone was like, whoa, this is really good, we should do this. And then there was like a whole slew of spaghetti Westerns after A Fistful of Dollars, none of which were apparently as good as Sergio Leone's films.
Yeah, I think it's one of those right place, right time things, but we'll get there. Yeah, I guess there's this, I guess, anecdote from his childhood growing up, and he always liked Westerns and stuff, and Americans, I guess.
Westerns are cool.
But I guess he felt like disillusioned when the American soldiers visited Italy, and he was like, man, these guys aren't that cool.
Yeah, because he had this romanticized version of American soldiers. So they're like, yeah, we're cool, propaganda. Yeah, we rescued France in World War II, look at us, we're so cool. Then he saw them and was like, they're not actually that cool, or kind of boring.
Kind of uncool.
Kind of not cool dudes going around killing all those people in Vietnam and Korea. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that comes out more in the third one, but anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So
he had a budget of Fistful of Dollars. So he made Fistful of Dollars.
No. His budget was about $200,000 for the first film, apparently. Which for 1964 feels like a lot more than it should have been, but the film was
still pretty low, I think.
Yeah. Well, it was, but on the higher end of what you would expect it to be. So, the film was originally called The Magnificent Stranger because The Magnificent Seven had come out before Sergio Leone's film was finished. Speaking of which, there's a reboot of that film coming out the month this is releasing. It's actually what we're capitalizing on this month.
Nobody's going to go see that movie.
Probably not. But there was nothing else to capitalize on this month. So.
Watch that just become the next huge hit, like Fistful of Dollars. People are saying nobody's going to go see that movie.
But yeah, he wanted to title Sergio Leone. That is, wanted to title this film.
You're Jimbo. No, I'm just kidding. You're Jimbo.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that in a second. He wanted to call it The Magnificent Stranger because Clint Eastwood's character doesn't have a name, so he's a stranger. And the Magnificent Seven, so they're going to steal the name of the Magnificent Seven.
Just because he doesn't have a name doesn't mean he has to be a stranger. But yeah, he doesn't have a name.
But I can't remember who it was now, but someone was like, hey, that's not really that good of a name.
Yeah, it's not. Well, apparently in the Italian version, they call him Joe, which isn't his real name, but it's just like a nickname because he's a white guy, I guess, so Joe. And I think, I'm just guessing here, but I'm pretty sure they nixed that for the English version because it's just like, I guess, probably in Italy it's like more exotic. Not exotic, but it's like you don't walk down the street and it's like, hey, I'm Joe. Hey, I'm Joe too. And it's not really that common of a name, probably. So I guess they kind of just nixed it here because it's like, oh, what's your name? I'm Joe. Even though apparently Clint Eastwood's character is kind of the antithesis to main characters from these older westerns. Apparently.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen
They
any
got
others.
a lot of flack for, but
Old westerns, so I couldn't comment. But yeah, so he basically Sergio Leone rips the plot straight from Yojimbo,
yeah.
which we referenced already. But and apparently Yojimbo took its plot from a 1920s novel called Red Heat, I think it was, about a noir detective.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, which one is more famous, you know?
True,
Apparently,
but
Sergio decided to play it off by saying, like, yeah, Jimbo took its plot from this book, which actually took its plot from some Italian play from, like, the 1700s. And I guess he kind of went down the line there. I don't know if it was, directly this 1920s book to this play, but eventually he reached the point where he was like, yep, it's all from Italy, so I'm good.
I think the difference is Yojimbo actually did take its plot from that novel. I think the author just didn't care enough to like sue them for it.
Well, I don't know, but I mean,
From what I read, the plot is actually like the same in all three of them. So
it's more than the plot though. He uses, some of the scenes are like frame for frame recreations of
yeah,
stuff from Kurosawa.
and then he gets sued right before the film comes out, unsurprisingly, because he basically ripped off some shots and the plot of a prior movie. Kind of not okay to do that.
I read that he like kind of didn't. Kurosawa sent him a letter, and I read that like he didn't really care what it said. He was just like, "Look, he sent me a letter. This is awesome." But eventually they like settled. So
yeah, I think Kurosawa got 20% of the box office profits.
I think it was like 10% or something like that. But it didn't really turn out to be too big of a deal. I think they were all just pretty okay with it.
Yeah, well, I guess the Japanese really stopped caring by the time George Lucas came around and ripped another plot for Star Wars.
What did he rip for Star Wars?
I don't remember. Go listen to our Star Wars episode because we mentioned it in there.
He ripped a lot of stuff for Star Wars.
No, but I remember we mentioned that he directly copied the plot from like a Japanese film about this guy who travels across Japan, and then all he did was set it in space.
I guess the Wachowskis came along. So go listen to our Matrix episode.
I guess the main point is there's no originality in movie making.
Or anything, ever. And it's not a new thing either. It's been going on since like
yeah, good artists
before
borrow,
Jesus.
great artists steal. So, anyway, back to this, I guess.
I guess. I mean,
so Leone was like, "Hey, we need a main character for our film," and he wanted
a bunch of people.
He wanted Robert Fonda, I think his name was, first, and he didn't even look at the script. Sergio Leone sent him the script, and the agent was like, "Yeah, we're not going to look at this." And then
Isn't it Henry Fonda?
Henry Fonda, and then he wanted Charles Bronson,
father of Jane Fonda, not Henry Fonda, not Bronson.
Not Bronson. And I think Charles Bronson would later act in Once Upon a Time in the West, which is what Sergio Leone made later, like way later after Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
It was only in 1968.
Yeah, he retired from westerns for 1 year. And that also became a big hit because it's Sergio Leone. But Bronson was like, "Yeah, no, the script sucks, so no."
Mainly because there probably wasn't much of a script.
Or it was all in Italian, and Bronson just didn't read Italian.
So he just, Leone has stated like that his films are actually silent films, and the dialogue is just there to add a bit of flair to it or whatever. And I know when he wrote Once Upon a Time in America, which is that other movie that came out like way later, which was his last movie, he'd only wrote the scene descriptions. He didn't write any dialogue. He got some other guy to write the dialogue. He basically gave this guy like a 400-page script. He's like, "Hey, can you write the dialogue?"
Well, like for these films, they filmed them silently, and then it was dubbed over later. Even for the Italian release, the Italian was dubbed in later.
Well, yeah, the first two. The third one, they actually spoke the lines.
So
yeah, the first one was all silent, which is why a lot of the dubbing is like really bad, and it looks like their mouths are closed when they're talking.
Yeah, probably because they are.
Well, some of the actors are better than others at pretending like they're saying stuff.
Well, they all pretended in different languages. We'll get to in a second, because we haven't got to how they cast Clint Eastwood yet. I think Leone sent the script to someone named like Richard Harrison, I think. And he was like, yeah, I don't think I could pull this off, but you should like contact this American dude named Clint Eastwood, because Clint Eastwood acted in Rawhide, which was an American Western TV show.
Clint. What kind of sick parents name their kid Clint? I mean, it's Clinton, but still, the same thing, you know? How do you look at a child and say, I'm going to name you Clinton?
Same way people look at their children and like, I'm going to name you Kennedy.
Yeah, that's almost as bad.
Really? I'd say that's worse. At least when Clint was named, there hadn't been a president named Clinton yet, so he was unique. Now there's like a million Kennedys running around. Anyway, Sergio Leone watched an episode of the show and was like, yeah, this guy could totally do it. So they called him up and he's like, yeah, okay, I guess, yeah.
I guess. Yeah, so he wanted to do it because I guess he thought his career was ending.
Well, yeah, because Rawhide was ending and Clint Eastwood, he'd kind of been typecast, so he didn't think there was anything else for him.
And he said that, like, yeah, he didn't think the movie would really do anything special, but he just wanted the free trip to Spain and Italy, so he took it.
Yeah, and apparently the character he played in Fistful of Dollars is completely different than the one he played in Rawhide. Like, in Rawhide, he played an actual good guy who roamed the West.
Not the good.
Setting things right where they were wrong.
Now. That's his character in these movies. Vicariously. He convinces other people to set stuff on fire. Anyway, yeah, so he bought the costume for
The Man with No Name.
/ Joe. / Manco.
/ Monko.
Yeah. /
Blondie.
He bought the jeans from the clothing store.
he bought
the cigars from
the cigar store.
Yeah, he pretty much just went around LA buying this stuff that eventually became super famous. But the poncho was Leone's.
Well, I think there's a bit of an argument over who suggested the poncho, I think, because I think both Eastwood and Leone claim that it was their idea, but I think there's more evidence backing up the fact that it was Leone's idea, not Eastwood's. But it doesn't matter, because he gets the poncho at some point, and that's that.
Yep.
Every other actor that Leone got was, I believe, Italian. I think he just
Spanish.
Or Spanish, yeah, because I think he just wanted a foreigner in the lead role because he thought it would make it more authentic to get an American to play a cowboy in his Western.
Yeah, well, they were doing that thing where they pretended it was an American movie by using pseudonyms. Like Bob Robertson.
So yeah, they all pretended to speak in different languages because everybody actually spoke a different language because all the Italian actors spoke Italian and they filmed in Spain, so all the like stunt coordinators and the local people spoke Spanish and then Clint Eastwood spoke English. So
and Sergio Leone didn't speak English.
Yeah, basically no one spoke any of the other languages except their own. So I think Clint Eastwood had to communicate with Leone through
someone.
One of the stunt doubles spoke English and Italian.
I think it was a stunt man because I don't think they really had
a stunt man. Yeah,
or the stunt coordinator. Not I think because I didn't really have stunt doubles. Because I mean, Eastwood and everyone else is like, yeah, these movies are super dangerous, and I'm lucky I didn't die.
Well, it was 1964. What do you expect? Regulations,
well,
and it's Italy.
Mean, yeah, in the U.S., yes.
So I don't know how long they filmed for, but it was like a month.
11 weeks.
11 weeks. 3 months. And
Leone's wife actually said he wrote the like they went and saw Yojimbo in a theater, and then after that he went and wrote this script. He's like, "What do you think?"
Leone. Well, did his wife turn to him and go, "Yeah, I don't think this is original."
She didn't comment on what she thought of the script. She just kind of hilariously told the story.
Wow. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so they make the film. Leone gets Ennio Morricone to do the score for him. And apparently, Leone didn't actually like Morricone's scores beforehand. Morricone was just recommended to Leone by one of the production people working on the film. So he went down and he's like, hey, how's it going? And he found out they actually went to the same school when they were younger. It's like, yeah, man, okay, sure, you can write the score for this film. Obviously, it ends up being basically defining the music for the genre for the next 50 years.
Yeah, I thought they were friends when they were in school. Or, like, they must have known each other, but...
Yeah.
At least acquaintances. Yeah, that's probably the best choice he could have made.
Yeah, because Morricone was like, I don't want to do a traditional Western score. I'm just going to do my own thing. And his own thing ended up being really good.
Honestly, probably why these movies aren't forgotten after so many years. No, I'm serious.
No, probably. Well, at least partially. I wouldn't say if it had another score, they'd be completely forgotten. They just might not be as well known. But I still think they'd be...
I think it'd be more of a cult thing rather than, like, the
mainstream.
Maybe, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah, Morricone ends up scoring, I think, every Western Leone does. And apparently, Morricone doesn't really like being asked about all his Leone scores because he did like 300 movies, and the Leone movies make up like 6 of them. But everybody asks about those because those are obviously his most famous scores.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess he just gets tired of being asked the same thing again and again and again.
I guess, but the
like
interview
the question song from what's his name who played Biff.
But the interview I was reading, the interviewer was like, yeah, so I won't talk to you too much about Leone's scores. And apparently Morricone was like, who told him not to ask about Leone? I'll talk about Leone. So I guess Morricone's just a difficult man to get along with. He doesn't speak English, apparently. He speaks Italian.
There was an interview where he was speaking in English. Maybe it was dubbed over, but I thought it was him.
I think it was dubbed, because the interview I read was from this century. And it was like, Morricone doesn't speak English because he lived in Italy his whole life, and Hollywood kept trying to convince him to move to LA by like offering him villas and stuff. And Morricone was like, no, I like my view in Italy, thanks. So every time a director from Hollywood came over, was like, can you write me a score? He had to write the score in Italy and sends it back to Hollywood over in LA.
I don't know. That was some pretty good dubbing then. All the other people in that interview were dubbed like really badly. Except him, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I still kind of think it was him speaking. He secretly speaks English, but hey.
Yeah, well,
maybe he just tried to keep it a secret so people from Hollywood wouldn't pester him even more.
Maybe. Yeah, he recently won Best Original Score because he came out of retirement for writing westerns to do Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, which I actually want to see, but I haven't seen yet. So...
Yeah, well, I don't think we're going to talk too much about Tarantino.
Tarantino films? Yeah, because he has no trilogies.
Well, I meant in this, because, like, these are his favorite movies, supposedly.
Well,
like
that much is evident, I guess, from... Quentin Tarantino's done 2 westerns in a row now. But yeah, that's a fistful of dollars, I think.
Yeah, came out... in the US, it got super negative reviews. And then 50 years later, everyone's like, sorry about that. We changed our minds. It's actually good.
Just kidding. Just a prank, bro.
This is actually the best movie of all time.
Yeah, a lot of these, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, and Once Upon a Time in the West are all considered the best westerns ever made by different people, so...
Yeah, and...
I guess Leone kind of has that title on lockdown.
Well, I mean, once you're considered the best ever, then you're never not going to be considered the best ever. Because every time something else that's like people think this might be the best ever comes up, they're going to be like, but is it really the best ever, or was that other thing the best ever? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but I disagree. I think you can be unseated from the best ever position. I think it's difficult, but I think it can be done.
As long as you're being compared to whoever was the best ever before, you're never going to be the best ever.
No, I disagree. I think that you could become the best ever by unseating
You can
the
become
previous,
the
the
very best, like no one ever was.
Pokemon Go. Anyway, the film doesn't come out in the US till 67 anyway, but Leone wanted to do a sequel in 65.
Well, yeah, made a bunch of money, and they're like, make a sequel.
Well, Leone was like, yeah, I'll do a sequel. Sounds like a good idea. But Eastwood was like, I haven't seen the film yet, so I don't want to sign up to the sequel till I've seen the film. So they send over an Italian language copy of the film for Eastwood to watch privately because it didn't air in the US, like we said, till 67. So Eastwood was like really trying to downplay the movie to all his friends. It's like, guys, it's going to be pretty bad. You know, it was made in Italy. We don't know this director, you know, we never know. And they all went in and they came out. It's like, yeah, that was one of the best films ever. Even though it was in Italian, they didn't understand jack squat.
Well, I think they just said they really liked it.
So Eastwood is like, yeah, I'll do the second one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, you can follow the movie without knowing
Well, yeah.
Italian. So, I mean, and I think that's something like the director intended, but...
And I think that's something that made Clint Eastwood sign on to do the second one. It's like, yeah, I could totally follow that film without knowing one word of Italian.
Yeah, because in the next two, he kept asking for less dialogue. Turns out he was actually just crap at remembering lines. No, I'm just kidding.
I think he just wanted his character to be more mysterious.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, the second one gets put into production.
A few dollars more.
For a few dollars more.
Yeah, that's how it's
Italy.
made, for a few dollars more than the first one. And the third one is made for like 10 times dollars more.
Yeah, they should have called the third one 10 times dollars more. Because he also gets 10 times more dollars. No, but actually the title is A Few Dollars More in the US, but in Italian it's For a Few Dollars More. So...
And like every other language. And they get Lee Van Cleef.
Yeah,
This
basically...
guy who's only famous for these.
Yeah, basically launches his brief fame.
Well, he was an actor before this, just not like a really famous one. And he, like, we were talking about typecasting. Apparently, he was like super typecast as a villain. Obviously, I mean, if you've seen his face, you know why.
Yeah, well, also
he's a villain in the third
with a
one.
name like Van Cleef.
Well, it's not like he's playing himself. That would be interesting.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, his name sounds like a villainous name.
Not really.
If I was coming up with a villain, I would name him Van Cleef.
Okay. Doesn't sound that villainous to me, but whatever. Yeah, but he doesn't play a villain. He plays... I mean, he doesn't play a hero either, but he plays a really good shot.
Plays a bounty killer.
Yeah, that the scene with they're shooting each other's hats is like my favorite scene in all three movies, except for the shootout at the end of the third one. But
The three-way shootout.
yeah, 10 minutes of them just standing stock still
With that really intense piece of music.
Yeah,
We didn't mention that the way Leone liked his music was that he liked the music to be written before he filmed the scenes.
yeah.
So Morricone would write the score, and then Leone would take it and film the scenes, and that's why some of the scenes go on really long. Well, part of the reason why is
He also
because,
just liked long movies.
Yeah. So part of the reason is because he likes
stated.
to leave the music to play out. So he has these really long scenes because he wants the whole track to play out. That's also why he runs through runs through a graveyard for like 5 minutes in the third one.
Tuco, the best character in all three.
No, the Man in Black was the best character. I don't remember. He had an actual name, and I don't remember what it was.
Detective Morrison or something like that. I don't know.
Colonel, wasn't it? It was Colonel.
Yeah, it was Colonel. He
Morrison.
wasn't a detective, but he kind of looked like a detective. He's actually a bounty killer.
Yeah, even better. Sort of a detective, right?
No.
He just gets to kill his targets.
Yeah, he's got nothing on Tuco.
Nah. It's all about Colonel Morrison. So he gets to ride away into the sunset at the end of the second one. No one else gets to ride away into the sunset.
So that's why he's the best. The very best, like no one ever was. Anyway, what were we oh yeah, music. So he had the music composed beforehand. I don't know if he did that for the first one.
I think he did.
Because I know No, he definitely did for the second and third one. But I'm not
pretty
sure about
he,
the first one.
He did for the first one because that was just the way he liked to make his films. So, because he had made films, or a film, I think, before.
Yeah, we didn't mention that his dad was a
Dollars.
director, so he got the easy route into Italian Hollywood.
It's but yeah, so for a few dollars more, it's a success, I guess.
Its story is more original than the first one. It's also its cinematography style, I guess is the right phrase, is more original.
Yeah, because you didn't shot for shot remake things from
Other people. Yeah, so, and I think the second one actually turns out a bit better than the first one.
I think they actually get progressively better. And we'll talk about that. I think we'll talk about that at the end when we talk about how well it worked as a trilogy.
Yeah, one of the few things, I guess, where each one was better than the last. I mean, there's only 3, so, it's not kind of unfair there, but...
Yeah. Well, speaking of directorial style, I guess the things that Sergio Leone did that were uniquely his own, like having long, wide shots that kind of just lingered, and then also close-up shots of people's faces for reactions, kind of defined, I guess, the spaghetti western genre. It's weird because Leone himself considered, I think, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly as a satire of the genre.
I considered all 3 of them a satire. I thought they were hilarious. Like I remember, we were watching them a couple days ago, and I was like cracking up during that last scene, the shootout in the third one. You were just sitting there silently. I was just laughing at that scene. But anyway, I hate the word satire.
You're an English major.
Yeah, but I still hate it.
Okay, well, Leone considers them satire, but I just thought it was interesting that he considers them satire, but the things he did kind of became the norm for the genre after he did them. So it was a satire, but then it became not a satire because it became the actual genre. I don't know how that works. But yeah, once again, fistful of a few dollars more. That's confusing. Doesn't make it to the US till 1967 when Good, the Bad, and the Ugly makes it there too. But it premieres in Italy in 1965 and is also a bigger success. Everyone's like, oh man, sequel.
Sequel. But he doesn't make a sequel, he makes a prequel.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, dang it, no.
I didn't want to see his origins. It's not really even his origins.
Yeah, it's not his origins. That's actually one of the things I liked about these is it's really episodic.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to say that episodic is the best way to tell a story, but... well, not the best way to tell a story, but the best way I like it. That's all I'm saying. But, yeah, I don't know. I like the characters more in episodic crap, but anyway. Even the movie... It's not even like 3 episodes. It's like the movie, except maybe the first one. The movies themselves are like really episodic.
Yeah.
It's like each scene is just like a new type of thing.
I think that's intentional on Leone's part.
It is.
So.
Except the first one. The first one's kind of one story.
Yeah. Yeah, so The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Clint Eastwood was like, I want more money if you're going to get me to act in this film. And
he's like, okay, well, we're making it for a lot more, so here's a lot more.
Yeah, I think his fee for the third one was like $250,000 plus a new Ferrari.
Another Ferrari. Fistful of Ferraris. Yeah. So they return to Spain to shoot the third one. And
unsurprisingly.
They get Eli Wallach to play Tuco in the best decision they could have made.
Is it, though?
Yeah.
But I don't think you know any of the other actors they were considering, so can you really say it was the best decision?
Yep.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I can. No. Well, I just did, so too bad.
It's not true, though.
It's true, because I say it is.
It's not. It's really not how that works.
Yeah, so he didn't want to do it at first. Well, he was, like, considering it, I guess. and Sergio Leone showed him the intro sequence to one of them. I forget which, and he was like, "Yeah, it's cool." So he did it. He said he liked how the director's name appeared on screen and then gets shot because he said, I guess he was reading way too much into it, but he said it shows that he has an ego, but he's willing to be shot down. I was like,
Yeah, I was reading into that way too much, I think. Apparently I found this out for A Fistful of Dollars. When it aired on ABC in, I think, 1979, they created an intro to the film where...
I thought they created an epilogue.
No, it was an intro to the film where the man with no name gets taken out of jail by some marshal, and he's like, "Hey, can you go to this town and instigate these two gangs to kill each other and burn down half the town?
Destroy this town."
I guess because they wanted the man with no name to have
a conscience.
An actual motivation for partially destroying this town,
other than money.
But that intro got lost to time. We don't have it anymore. It only ever aired once, and then
no one recorded it.
And everyone was like, "That was kind of a bad idea. Let's not do that."
Honestly, I bet people go so nuts over that, like, "Oh my god, it ruins the movie," but like, it probably doesn't.
Well, I think
much.
Even Clint Eastwood came out and was like, "Yeah, no, that was kind of a bad idea."
It probably doesn't have that big of an effect on the movie. I wouldn't care either way, to be perfectly honest.
It's probably really different from the rest of the film because it would have been shot later. And it was mostly just shots of the marshal opening the jail cell and Clint Eastwood coming out, and then the close-up shots are apparently taken from elsewhere in the film. So... The good, the bad, and the ugly. Back to that.
So yeah, Eli Wallach comes on. He says he said Clint Eastwood was kind of his mentor there. He's like, "Hey, look, I've worked on 2 Italian movies before. You have to really make sure you don't die on these things," which he almost did like 5 times. Eli, that is.
Well, I'm pretty sure Clint too. Pretty sure everyone died almost 5 times, probably more.
They died almost 5 times, probably more. Cool. Yeah, there was the train scene, which wasn't a stunt double. Leone was like, "I want to make sure it's not a stunt double there. It's got to be you, Eli. It's got to be you." So that's why he turns towards the camera in that scene and almost dies when he almost gets up when the little train step thing is right above his head. There's also that time where he drank acid. He thought it was soda, but it was acid. And then drank a quart of milk. Because he drank acid and he was like, oh shoot, and everyone was like, "Oh shoot, we don't know what to do. We don't have anything for acid," so they just gave him a quart of milk.
I guess that would work.
And the time when they almost got blown up by a bridge. Yeah. The bridge they blew up twice.
Yeah, they had to rebuild it while they were filming other scenes because...
And the time Tuco was on the horse and it ran for, according to Eli, a mile. I don't know if that's an exaggeration or not.
Yeah, so everyone basically almost died. Lee Van Cleef wasn't the first choice for the bad either, but at the end of the day, they couldn't really find anyone else, so they're like, "Hey, Lee, want to do another film?" And he's like, "Sure, I'm in." So there you go. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah,
which in Italian, in the original, was the good, the ugly, and the bad. And there's this funny trailer that you can find on YouTube where they didn't know that they had switched the names around for the English version. I guess they just did it because it sounds better. Good, bad, and the ugly.
I was going to ask because in the film they introduced them in the order, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
No, they do the ugly, they do the... What do they do? They do it backwards in the movie. They do it the ugly, the bad, and the good. No, that's
at the end of the film.
They do it at the beginning. They do the same way at the beginning.
I don't think they did.
No, they do. Watch it again. They do.
I don't think they did.
They do. They did the ugly, the bad, and the good in the beginning. Trust me on this one. They did it that way.
You know what? Whatever.
But anyway, they switched the title around for the American release. I'm assuming just because it sounded better. I don't really know why they did. And I can't really think of any other reason other than that. But there's this funny trailer you can watch where they have Lee Van Cleef as the ugly and Eli Wallach as the bad. So that's kind of interesting. And I don't know. I guess the kind of the point behind this movie was like they're the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Like these stereotypes from the prior Western movies, and but here they're just like all bad. The good's bad, the bad's bad, and the ugly's bad.
Well, I was reading something, and the guy was talking about how they're all bad, but like the ugly's only the ugly because he's not as good looking as the bad, and the good's only the good because he's not as ugly as the ugly.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they're all after the money anyway. They're all after this Confederate cash.
Who wouldn't be? It's $200,000 in 1865. That's like a couple million today.
Yeah, but all that crap they had to go through to get it.
Yeah, it'd be worth it. Be honest, totally worth it.
Yeah, they all had different names in the Italian one too. I mean, there's Blondie. I think he was the same. I think they also called him Joe. And Angel Eyes is Sentenza, which is like sentence, like death sentence.
Wow, that's bad.
And Tuco is just Tuco.
It's just Tuco.
Tuco is the best character in the whole.
Yeah,
piece.
you could stop with that now because it's false. We all know
No, I can continue with it because it's true.
No, it's wrong. Amanda Black was the best character.
No, that's wrong.
No, that's correct. Yeah, so in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, there's a scene where Clint Eastwood picks up the iconic poncho off a Confederate soldier who died. But apparently there's a scene that they filmed for A Fistful of Dollars where Eastwood gets the poncho.
Yeah, there's a lot of deleted
from
scenes.
Someone, and they cut the scene because like it's more mysterious if we don't know where he gets it from.
Yeah, except when you're watching, you don't really care where he got the dang poncho. It's just like, okay, he has a poncho. I mean, you don't even notice it, really. It's not like it would have entered my mind. I wonder where he got that poncho. I mean, until maybe the third one when he gets it. And then I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But,
yeah, so... Well, so... I should also mention this. We watched the Blu-ray re-release that came out in 2014, which includes 18 minutes of extra footage for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and was remastered in HD. But when they remastered it, So when Sergio Leone made the film, he put like a slight filter on the film to make it a little bit more orange. But when they remastered it,
they took it off.
They removed the filter, and there was a little bit of controversy over that. They're like,
"Oh, who gives a
You're ruining the director's vision," and the people were like, "The director's vision was in how he shot the movie. No one cares about the filter.
The director's dead. He can't do anything now."
But then again, I guess they kind of have a point because like the Matrix wouldn't have been the same if everything didn't have the green filter in the Matrix. So I feel like they do kind of have a point that, yeah, the filter is kind of an artistic choice that the director made, so...
Who cares? I don't care about the stupid filter.
I think it adds to the film, at least in the Matrix it does. Yeah, it's in like 4K now. They filmed it on film, which is why they can do that and get it in like super HD quality.
Is this your pitch for film?
No. Digital at this point is like just as good as film, so. But like back,
one of those guys who's like, it's gotta be film. It's gotta be film.
I don't care what it's filmed on. Some directors really do care, though.
So should we talk about the bridge, like Quentin Tarantino? Anyway. We should talk about the bridge.
Quentin Tarantino only cares when it suits his vision. He shot all his films on digital, and then it was like, Hateful Eight, gotta film it on film because it's a Western and we want it to be authentic.
Yeah, all right, Quentin. Who names their kid Quentin?
Have you seen any of his films?
No.
His films is... I saw Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction was actually really good.
I watched the animated part of Kill Bill, and then I got bored, so I turned it off.
Pulp Fiction, if you like these films, if you like episodic films, you'll like Pulp Fiction.
Well, I don't, so I won't. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, we should talk about the bridge. Yeah, they blew up a bridge. They blew up this rickety-looking bridge. No. So, first of all, we should say they really used all these guns. So, I mean, nowadays they probably wouldn't have. But yeah, all these guns and all the shots in the movie, I think, most of them at least, are real. And actually, before we get to the bridge... I don't think
those sound effects are real, though.
I don't think the sound effects are real. Before we get to the bridge... You know that scene where Tuco is stealing the gun and he like puts it together. He makes his own gun out of the gun parts that the guy has. Apparently, Eli Wallach is like, yeah, I had no idea about anything about guns. I didn't know anything about guns, so I was just told to just kind of wing it and just do my own thing. So I just got in there and I was like, apparently, he said while he was filming it, he had no idea what he was doing. He was thinking, oh, I'm messing it up. I'm not doing something realistic. And then at the end, Leone was like, great, it's great. And apparently, I don't know anything about guns, so I don't know either, but apparently everything he did is like things you really do when you're putting a gun together and checking stuff. And he just kind of made it all up on the spot. So that's why I kind of don't believe him. I was like, okay, you had to know something about it, but maybe it's just a big happy coincidence. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Yeah, so the bridge. They need to blow up this Confederate bridge. So they had these Spanish soldiers build this bridge, right? If you look on Wikipedia, it says that all the cameras were destroyed while blowing it up, but according to people on set, that's not what happened. Anyway, they had these soldiers build the bridge, and they're like, okay, we're going to blow it up now. So since the soldiers built the bridge, they're like, we'll let you blow it up since you built it. And they're like, all right, cool. So originally, Leone wanted Clint Eastwood and Eli to be down near the bridge when it exploded, and they're like, yeah, no, we don't want to be next to the explosion, so we're just going to not be close to it. So what happened was the captain or whoever it was who was in charge, colonel or whatever, they were told to blow it up on Vi, on go. So when they were checking the cameras, the guy was like, I don't know the lingo, but apparently Vi is one of the things they're like, okay, good, go. Yeah, go. And he heard go, and he's like, go? So he blew the thing up, and Eastwood and Wallach joked like, I bet the cameras weren't even rolling, right? And they went down, and here's where the accounts differ. Eastwood said Sergio was red with anger that the cameras actually weren't filming.
There seems to be a lot of uncertainty around this situation. Were the cameras destroyed? Were they not filming? Was Sergio mad? We don't know.
Leone's wife, whose name I don't remember, unfortunately, has said that he kind of just laughed it off. But yeah, they had to rebuild the entire bridge, which they went back like a couple weeks later and filmed the actual scene. So
yeah, they made the Spanish rebuild the bridge while they went to go film other scenes.
They did it for free because he felt bad about it. Whoever blew it up.
Well, I wouldn't have blamed him for just being like, nah, you guys should have had the cameras rolling. But
well, I mean, it was his fault because they weren't ready to go, and he heard someone say go, not to him, and did it. So
yeah, but that also means it's kind of partially their fault for saying the word when they shouldn't have.
He was talking to someone else, I assume.
Yeah, but how would he know? They're speaking in different languages is a thing, so there's obviously a language barrier. So it's like,
well, I think it's the same word, and he was kind of. What I would assume is that he was kind of off to the side talking to someone else, and this guy's just kind of over there. He hears it go, all right. And I would assume. I don't know. Obviously, probably nobody really knows except the guys who did it, the guys who were there.
Well, see, the way you told the story, I assumed he was, like, looking at the camera, and he's like, all right, everything's good, and the guy was standing, like, off to the side, and he's like, oh, everything's good, okay, let's go. Like, that's the way I had interpreted it from the way you told that story.
Well, I mean, I have no idea. I wasn't there.
So.
Anyway, he felt bad about it, and they redid it for free, so that was kind of nice of them. They also built the graveyard. The Spanish army.
That massive graveyard.
And they, apparently, according to Eastwood, they were skeptical about building the graveyard because they're like, what is this movie about? Are these Spanish graves? And they're like, no, they're American. They're like, okay, we don't care then.
Okay, whatever.
So they built the
and they watched the film and were like, whoa. But yeah, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Obviously a big success too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they wouldn't have been cool with them digging up Spanish graves for gold.
Even though that's the plot of like every movie about El Dorado ever.
But that's the Spanish digging up
Spanish.
Anyway.
Well, no, unless it's about people looking for Spanish explorers who found El Dorado.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that one came out. That one was the most famous one. Everyone loved it.
Everyone still loves it. It was a good film.
Actually,
So
not everyone loved it when it came out, but now everyone does.
true genius goes unappreciated in its own time.
Not really.
Yeah, that happens less often than everyone just accepting that someone's a genius in their own time.
So there you go. Leone was inspired by paintings, I guess, that he looked at. He liked lighting from paintings.
Yeah.
So, not that you really have to know or care about that to watch the movie.
It's like how Stanley Kubrick lit all his own movies and made actors do 137 takes to get it correct.
Yeah, Leone was also kind of a perfectionist, which is kind of why, what's-his-face, Eastwood didn't come back for...
Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah. He's like, I had enough of your perfectionist attitudes, dude.
But Charles Bronson was like, remember how I turned down Fistful of Dollars? I'm totally in now.
That you're super famous, I'm in. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Well, it's kind of what we're here to talk about.
I mean, it's kind of, yeah. It's...
But we're probably going to watch that eventually, so.
We will?
It's part of another pseudo-trilogy, so.
It is?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
It's Once Upon a Time in the West, Duck You Sucker, which has like a bunch of other titles in a bunch of different other countries, and Once Upon a Time in America.
I don't think those films are related at all.
But they're considered like a pseudo-trilogy.
I don't think they are, though.
It has a little template for it on Wikipedia.
What? I don't think that's correct. Oh, okay, I guess you're right. The Once Upon a Time trilogy. What? The films do not share any characters in common. That makes them even less of a trilogy than this trilogy.
But they're still considered a trilogy.
Why, though? By who?
Probably because they were the next three movies that Sergio Leone directed. That's what I'm guessing. And they all share a common titling scheme, so...
Not really. Duck You Sucker kind of...
No, that has another title that I don't know. It's also called Once Upon a Time, The Revolution. And A Fistful of Dynamite. Sounds a lot more dangerous than A Fistful of Dollars.
They should just include Once Upon a Time in Mexico in that trilogy, made by a completely different director and also like way different than these films. Once Upon a Time in Mexico is actually really violent, by the way. So
are these. And that's why they got a lot of hate. Especially since this was the era, I guess, where they're coming out of the production code in Hollywood, so.
Yeah, well, PG-13 rating didn't exist yet.
Ratings didn't exist yet.
But
plus these were Italian.
When the ratings were made, Fistful and A Few Dollars More were both rated R. Good the Magliocchi didn't get rated for some reason, though.
But it'd probably be
R.
R. I like that scene where Tuco is slamming the guy's head on a rock. Actually, I didn't like it. It was kind of violent.
That was the most violent scene in all three of them, actually.
Yeah, probably. The ending is kind of... It's not violent, but it's just questionable. Where he like, leaves him there to hang, or so you think.
It's just like old times, that's what Blondie says. Just like old times, Tuco. 4 for you, 4 for me. Wow.
Yep. So the music in that one is probably the most well-known. You know,
it's the
whistle.
Yeah, it's the genesis of the...
Yeah, the Western theme.
And the guy goes, wah, wah, wah.
But yeah, I really liked that ending scene, the standoff.
Yeah, I think it's like the most famous scene from all three of these movies.
Yeah.
Partially because it's the standoff and partially because of the music, which is also really famous from that scene too.
Yep.
Yeah, once Morricone did these scores and was really unique, everyone else was like, dang, we could do Western scores like that, using weird instruments like bells and chimes and people going, wah! So...
I don't think it quite worked out for them as well as it did for him.
No, because Morricone was kind of better than most of the other people writing scores at the time.
There might have been something out there that was better, but it wasn't as big, or it wasn't like the first to do. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know. But scores are my favorite part of these movies, not gonna lie.
Yeah. music is the difference between a good movie and a great movie.
Yeah.
I guess. I'm just making this up, but on the spot, but it seems right.
Seems right, so it's probably right. I guess that's a good segue into how does it work as a trilogy.
Really well, in my opinion.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Well, mainly because I just like episodic crap. I mean, I mentioned it before, Cowboy Bebop is my favorite show of all time. That's like as episodic as it gets, but...
Well, it's a TV show,
TV show, but TV shows don't necessarily have to be episodic.
Yeah, but generally they're kind of mildly forced due to their format.
Well, there's usually a overarching plot. But anyway, yeah, so I think if you like episodic stuff, then yeah, you're probably gonna like this as a trilogy. But what we didn't like was how we kind of got burned out on the third one because it's so long. And like halfway through, we're just like, is it over yet?
Well, I think I liked the third one, and like looking back, I was like, oh yeah, the third one was really good. And I think I would enjoy it more if we hadn't already watched 3.5 hours of Leone films.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking, like, you can watch these probably in any order. I think the production
you can.
I think the production
there's no reference to the other films in them.
I think the production order is probably the best, though. And I say that despite getting kind of burned out on the third one. Just because, I mean, the character development, if you can even say there is any, isn't like spectacular or isn't like really the focus or anything. But I'd say the main character, Clint Eastwood's character, Tuco is arguably the main character in the third one.
Clint Eastwood.
Well, he's more of a character, I think, in the second and third ones, which is why, like, if you do 3, 2, 1, which is how I was thinking you might want to do it.
Well, you could do 3, 1, 2, which would be timeline order.
That's what I meant. 3, 1, 2. I said 3, 2, 1, but I meant 3, 1, 2. If you do it that way, it's kind of like he's a bit more of a character in the third one than the first one. He's kind of just this dude. And the second one, he's also like a bit slightly more of a character. So that would be kind of weird, but it really wouldn't matter. Probably don't even watch them all in a row, to be perfectly honest. Just
in one day. Kind of space them out a bit. They're kind of dense films. There's a lot to take in. Not dense story-wise. I mean, like dense, like visually, musically, and story-wise combined. There's a lot to take in.
I wouldn't even watch all of them. I wouldn't even watch one in one sitting, if you know what I mean. Except I would watch the first one in one sitting. The third one, I'd watch like a couple scenes and then one day, and then a couple more the next day, probably. Maybe, I don't know.
I'd watch the third one in one sitting, but not with the other two. But I'm just surprised how well it worked as a trilogy, because I went in assuming that it was just going to be a trilogy in name only, because that was how it was pitched on Wikipedia. Like, United Artists came up with this as a marketing ploy. I was like, oh boy, this isn't going to really be a trilogy, is it?
Well, in a sense, it kind of wasn't. I mean, you could just see these as kind of a standalone thing. You don't even have to, if you want to go into these thinking it's a different main character, then hey, like, you totally can.
Yeah.
But I just liked how the cast was the same and all of them playing different roles.
Well, most of them. Most of them are the same cast for two films. Like, there's a lot of overlap. There's only like 2 or 3 characters, or actors that are in all 3, one of whom is Clint Eastwood, obviously.
Well, a lot of the minor characters were the same actors.
Well, because they were all extras.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they weren't extras. They were just kind
day
of...
laborers.
I don't know what the term is, but they were the... Yeah,
side characters.
Side characters, I guess. But anyway, yeah, so there you go. That's that other stuff, expanded universe. I don't think there really is any.
Yeah, kind of shoots ourselves in the foot for what we're going to do for the 0.5 episode for this. I think on our spreadsheet it's a triple question mark right now because we don't know what we're doing.
We could watch for a few dollars less, which is like a parody.
There's a lot of parodies of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Like there's The Good, the Bad, the Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
The Korean one?
Yep.
You could watch Yojimbo.
Yeah, it's probably in Japanese.
Probably with subtitles, or probably poorly dubbed like this was.
Poorly dubbed. Yeah, but the thing was about the poorly dubbed stuff is that eventually my brain just accepted it. Like,
no, I liked it. It made it better. It made it more funny.
At first I was like, this seems really weird. It's kind of difficult for me to pay attention to because the words and the lips aren't lining up. But then eventually my brain is like, oh, whatever, I don't care anymore.
All right, I liked it.
Well, I'm not saying I liked it or didn't like it. I'm just saying eventually
Yeah.
I just accepted
Yeah,
it.
no, I'm saying that I liked it.
Okay. In the first film, you can clearly tell that Clint Eastwood is actually probably saying his lines. Because his lips actually really match up to his words really well. Less so in the second film. In the second film, it's like he gave up.
On the third one, they actually spoke all their lines, and the third one, they had speakers of English, I think Spanish, Italian, and German all on the set. So it was like, yeah, speak your own language. So you can see like this B-roll footage or whatever of the scene where Tuco's talking to his brother and Eli's, he's saying lines that are actually in the final movie, but the guy's responding in Spanish, I think. Maybe it was Italian. God, I could find now. And so that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And he said they kind of just watched each other's mouths, and he's like, "Okay, you're done, all right." And then he spoke his lines.
Seems like a difficult way to make a movie.
Yeah, all of this seems like a kind of a difficult and dangerous way to make a movie.
Well, it was the 60s, so...
And Italy/Spain.
These are the oldest films we've watched, by the way. So in the past 2 episodes, we've now watched the newest and the oldest films of the podcast.
Yep, and I don't imagine we're going to be watching anything older than this
No.
anytime soon. I mean,
Or
I don't
ever.
really even know any trilogies older than this.
Unless we watch like a
they're out
silent film trilogy.
Yeah, I guess.
Or maybe there's a Kubrick film that's older than this. I don't precisely know when all of Kubrick's films came out. Yeah, so this podcast now spans 1964 to 2007, right?
Yep.
There you go. We'll figure something out for the 0.5 episode. Email us at thedoctor@decorative.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, your thoughts about what we should do for the 0.5 episode, because we don't know yet. We just actually double-checked the spreadsheet. It says Sergio Leone, triple question mark. Spoilers.
Spoilers for our spreadsheet?
Find us on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play, all at Triple Play. And check out Trust Your Doctor, which is where we originally made The Bourne Goes to Mars, and it's a musical joke.
Right. Also check us on Facebook at Triple Play or facebook.com/3ppodcast. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at 3ppodcast and follow us on Twitter. And next month we're doing something for this, hopefully. But the month after that, we will do what we wish. But until then, the end.